Yeah.
Well, welcome everybody to the next installment of the monthly guide call for IMLS grant recipients and facilitators. We're excited to spend the next however long it takes with you to talk about today's topic, which is sustainability. How to sustain a code club beyond the first year.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of us are getting to that point, especially in this grant, where we have either just ended or are ending in the next couple months, and we want to keep it going. We want to keep engaging kids and giving them job opportunities and life skills opportunities and changing their lives, right? Why give up after a year? So right. Linda's going to lead us in today's conversation.
Yeah.
Take it away, Linda.
Okay, I will take it away. Hi, Laura. Hi, Terry. Thanks for being here. And do you both have to use chat? No microphones? That's okay. Just checking to see.
Since it is a small group, microphones would be hopefully a very low intimidation factor.
Yeah. But if you just have to, if your mic isn't real, which is sometimes the case, it's okay to use the chat. So actually, to start, I just wanted to catch up with people to see what's happening with your code clubs, and then go the next step of, well, what are you going to do when your grant year is over? And I know not everybody is done at the same time. But so Laura and Terry, what's happening with your code clubs now? What have you been doing? What's a success and a challenge you might have had? You can tell us in the chat, or you can talk if you can talk.
So Laura is from Marshall County Library in Tennessee, in Lewisburg, Tennessee. Yeah. And Terry, I think, is from Richmond. What is it called? Richmond Library in, I think, Richmond, Utah. So kind of different parts of the country. I think Terry's library has until the summer.
Okay,
through
cool.
the summer, because they were a late addition. They filled in a spot that somebody else had dropped out of. And then Laura's, I believe, ends in the spring. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Terry and Laura, but that's off the top of my head.
Luke, right? Oh, cool. That's great, Terry. That's awesome. Perfect. Okay. So you've still got 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 months. But I guess it's not a terrible thing to still think about next steps and how you're going to keep it going. But first, Terry, so this is your first show and tell, right, that you've done? And I'd love to know a little bit about what you're planning and how it's going to go. And it's very cool that you're here, even though it's your second. So then my question is, what are you doing different this time?
And for those of you watching on the recording, Terry's chatting in, said she's doing her show and tell this afternoon, demoing Ozobots, Spheros, and Makey-Makeys. And Laura actually also said that their club, just in general, is doing a lot with Makey-Makeys and robots right now.
That's great.
That's funny.
Yeah, go ahead.
No,
go ahead. Oh, no, go, Luke. You were talking. I interrupted.
I was just going to say, the Raspberry Pis are the other thing that are in the system, but it's a different beast, and they're not as accessible. They're not as easy to just start using like the Makey-Makeys and the robots are. So I'm just recognizing that as people are giving feedback on what they're utilizing. Yeah,
that's a good idea. And Terry is saying that she's using new modules from Prenda after the showings. So now I have to ask Terry, sorry, you're gonna have to do all this typing, but so tell us a little bit about how your showings work, your show and tell works. So the show and tell of you showing and telling and demoing, or the youth showing and telling and demoing. I don't seem to be able to talk well.
And this is a good follow-up because this was the last topic, right?
That's right, exactly.
Last month's guide call. So we're kind of checking in and getting the pulse for, okay, did it work? Did what we talk about work?
Well, and I also always think like the show and tell and demos is either at the beginning or the end or both, right? So how does that work when you do that? And then how do you build off of that? So that's why I was really interested to know about, Terry, what you're doing differently. So, and Laura, have you done a show and tell with the Makey-Makeys? Great. Thank you, Terry. Great. That's awesome. That's what I was thinking when you said show and tell, that you had them. So she's saying that she hooks it up to the Chromebook, to a projector, and they show their projects. Terry, do they practice first before they show their projects? I love that they're excited to work with each other and show shortcuts. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think show and tells are one of the best ways to inspire. That's where the
Yeah.
community really has some power.
Yeah.
Because their peers, they like look across the room and say, "Holy smokes, you made that thing? You're like
Yeah.
my age. How did you do that?" And it inspires them and challenges them, and they get to dig into the code and say, "Look, this is what I did. You can do it." That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. And Laura's saying they're planning their open house for parents in the new year. So thinking about the sustainability thing, I was thinking one of the things in my mind talking about this is one of the best ways to sustain is to get other people involved. So like parents or community members. And we talked about this last time with the show and tell, is also just making sure to invite people to even just your events. Like this afternoon, I'm in Seattle and I'm going to go to a Seattle Public Library event, teen event with technology, just to see what they're doing and learn about it. Because then if I know, other people in the community can know too. So it's really good to invite people to come. So Terry's saying they're used to looking over each other's shoulders during upload and don't seem to be shy or hesitant about showing off the projects. Yeah, that's the other sustainability thing I was thinking about is the ability to not just talk amongst their peers, but other people about what they've been working on. Because once you start to do that, then other people start to see, oh, look at all of these great ways that youth are gaining presentation skills along with their coding skills. So that's really great.
Confidence, positive feedback.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
awesome. I have a question for both Terry and Laura. What are some of the projects you've seen lately from the kids that have stood out to you that you think were cool, that they did a good job on? Maybe just share one or two of those. So Terry's saying she's talking to her director about sustainability.
Yeah.
Show and tells are open to parents and the public. City council fully supports us. Terry, have you had any city council members come and visit a show and tell, or have you invited city council members to come visit a show and tell? Those are great opportunities for politicians to show up and shake hands and kiss babies.
And learn how to code.
Oh yeah, learn how to code, yeah.
And learn how to code or or build robots or whatever. Computationally think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that viral video of Obama sitting in on an hour of code day at a school, and like the kids are trying to show him what to do, and it's just awesome, like video of him engaging with the code. He's not just there to like look at it, but he's actually trying to do the hour of code activity, which is very cool.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's great.
Yeah.
And so did I already ask you this, Terry? I'd love to know what your director and you are talking about in terms of sustainability, what you think you're going to do. That's cool, Terry. Have a girl polishing off her website to sell baked goods.
That's awesome. Terry, is she doing the actual mission in the app that's asking her to design a website for a business? Cool. That's a new addition that I'm really excited about because
that's
it really
great.
ties in that entrepreneurship idea.
Yeah, that's really cool. It fits in with civic engagement and there's so many things, and that's actually how to build out, right? When you're trying to sustain it, is what are these projects that can then go out into the community?
Yeah, I'll tell a story about that.
Go for it.
We had this is actually an adult code club here locally a couple years ago. And at their actual library facility, there's kind of a park behind it. Mm-hmm. And the park had some cool things, like it had an observatory, or has an observatory that is open in the evenings, and it had ramadas and stuff like that. And so this adult code club decided that they wanted to make an app to highlight features of this park. And so they had like waypoints where if you clicked on it, it would open up a little short explanation for it. And they built it all in App Lab because that's what they were most comfortable in. And it was a cool project that it was really connected learning. They took their interests, they took something that as a community they had shared interest in, and they divvied up the work and they worked together. And it was just a cool example of follow, like what technology can do, how you can apply it.
Yep. That is so cool. I love when, it's the connected learning thing. And that's what look at that bake sale, right? That's total connected learning. Have Terry and Laura, have you read about because we're just throwing this connected learning.
Yeah, connected learning, if you haven't heard of it, it's a buzzword, but it's a newer like field of study it's a newer pedagogy, like how people learn. And the idea is, what is it? There's 3 spheres. I'll drop the main website. It's clalliance.org.
So there's the interest sphere, and it's a Venn diagram. So it's interests, relationships, and opportunities. And by putting all those 3 together with young people, helping them find out their interests, and then connecting them to opportunities to learn more about their interests, yay, and then providing opportunities, building relationships with the young people amongst yourselves, but also in community, like with tech company people, whoever. That's very cool.
Yeah, so here's the Venn diagram. Connected learning happens right here, the intersection of those 3 things.
So did I ask that question about what you've been talking about with your director, Laura, in terms of sustainability? Did I ask that question? And then I'm wondering what your answer is.
Terry, who had said that specifically.
Terry, sorry.
Yeah.
So Terry,
what have you guys been talking about?
Right, what have you been talking about?
Oh, and Laura, I missed this one. Laura said we just had all the 6th graders from our closest school come through the library in the last few days, and they got to play with makeys and robots. We put in a plug for Code Club. Have you seen any results from that yet, Laura, of like new kids showing up? And then beside whether it worked or not in terms of marketing, what did you do? What did you have? Did you have stuff ready for the kids on the makey so there's something simple for them to do, or something simple on the robots? I'd love to, because that's a great idea. I mean, if I don't know how you logistically coordinated, if you're close to the school or even part of the school or what, but how do you get a whole class of 6th graders over? And then you have some kind of interaction or experience for them. It's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it is awesome. And then I'm wondering if they had seen it before, and, was this brand new, or some knew more than others, all that kind of stuff. Because people talk about class visits all the time, but I'm not sure I've heard a lot of people talk about doing something like that.
Yeah. I've heard of like tech fairs that are on a Saturday or in the evening, but parents have to bring their kids, which is still a very cool thing. But when you have access to the school in that way, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So Laura says she had a pre-planned course for the robots that the kids could work on. And for the makey, she had the piano and Tetris set up for the kids to do, which is cool because, it's just a cool. I am just blown away by the makey. The more I interact with it, the cooler it is. For you to be able to wire something up in the real world, write a little bit of code, and then like it does something based on what you're doing in the real world. That's so empowering. You're like, oh, I could I don't know, build a sliding door, based on what I have in this makey or something like that. It's just very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very cool. And then Laura is talking about she has a contact at the school for her STEAM team. Oh. Do you do some Code Clubby stuff with STEAM team? Thank you, Terry, saying you're going to stay with Prenda for another year.
If they can get funding,
it
makes sense.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, Terry had mentioned that there might be tech companies in the area that would sponsor or fund, and I just want to throw that out. That's one of our first recommendations when you're looking for funding, whether it's for Prenda or anyone, any kind of tech programming, local companies that have any kind of technology angle to them, even if they're like a marketing company that does websites occasionally or something like that, that maybe it's not their core thing, but they still have a value for technology. Those people are ideal to fund something like this. And honestly, the fees that Prenda or some of the other, well, there's nothing like Prenda that I'm aware of, but some of the other just like coding software stuff, the fees that we charge are so minimal when you look at it from a business perspective, that they'll like, oh, we can write that check today if you want.
Yeah.
So it's a very fertile field to go to when you're looking for funding. So I just want to reinforce that idea.
Yeah, and also even just other people in the community who have jobs, not necessarily in tech, but related to the kinds of things youth learn as a part of Code Club, they could be really interested too. Because often when you ask people what skills young people need, they're talking about the kinds of skills you gain from coding. It's just not coding.
Yeah.
Communication, problem solving, troubleshooting, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So being able to talk about that is great. Who's need admin?
Yeah, any admin.
Who are you, any admin? Laura, that's great. They're so excited about the Makeys.
Yeah, I know in Laura's state, they're opening up a grant. Tennessee State Library is opening up a grant. Laura, I assume you guys will apply for that. But it's in partnership with us for next year, right around when your current grant runs out. So that is a good opportunity for you and anybody else that happens to be in Tennessee.
So we don't know who any admin is.
Not yet.
Can you tell us?
Admin, if you want to type into the chat who you are and where you're from, feel free. You just want to observe, that's fine too.
You can be anonymous. You can make up a name. But we're talking about, just so you know, we're talking about, well, sustainability, sort of, like what happens next after your Code Club year is done. But also just what people have been working on, what's been going well. And Laura and Terry, if you have any questions too. Oh, that's a great idea.
This same grant I was referring is also for hotspots.
Great. So hotspots that you would bring with you as opposed to hotspots that you check out, right, Laura? Oh, very cool. Yeah, so having both hotspots you check out.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really a great thing. There are some places, this is slightly off topic, but I think Florida and probably other places have hotspots on their school buses, so that the youth who have to travel far or even not so far have access while they're on the bus and can work on homework and stuff like that.
That's pretty cool.
That idea. Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, we've got a light rail here in Phoenix that doesn't even have hotspot. It doesn't even have Wi-Fi.
In our last 6 months to a year in Seattle, there's almost constant Wi-Fi access on the light rail, which is sort of amazing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always surprised that that's true. And they did it very quietly too. I don't think I ever read anything about it. But maybe some of the young people you all are working with will actually be working on projects like that one day.
You guys, have I told the story before about there's I forget what it was. It was like a math teacher or somebody like that, and she would end like every class with, hey, when you, to my class, when you guys grow up and you become rich and famous, just remember me. Right? She just like put in a plug like that at the end of every class, just as kind of a joke. And then towards the end of her career, she's getting ready to retire. Some grown student walks in the room, throws her the keys to a Porsche, and turns around and walks away.
That's awesome.
And I like that story because that's the kind of impact that you as librarians and Code Club facilitators get to have on kids.
Yeah.
You get to really
Absolutely.
have this positive, profound impact on their lives. And
Absolutely.
technology, the chances of them growing up and becoming rich and famous are probably much higher than if you were a,
Mhm.
I don't know, art teacher or something like that.
Oh, so Terry is saying they're facing an issue of people leading the club. Hired a high school student to lead most of the meetings while I show up when I can or when needed. Not sure how next summer will go. I'm also working with a robotics leader to see what we can do. So is the high school student not working well? And I don't mean that that student is not great, but the framework for how you set that up.
If only, Laura
Yeah.
says to the Porsche story.
I'm not sure a Porsche is what I would want. I want to put in what I was looking for, right?
What do you want?
I don't know. I don't have a car, so I actually don't want a car. So maybe that's what's going on here.
Is
Is
that
that
a is that just a like sustainability decision that you made?
no, it's a lifestyle decision. There's no
Yeah,
reason where we live and can easily
yeah,
get around without one. Yeah.
that's cool.
Um, sell and get. Oh, that's a good idea, Laura. Okay, so when that happens to me, I will sell it and get what I want. Brilliant, brilliant. Oh, great. Okay, so Terry says the student's going great. Oh, it's whether she has the time or gets higher paying job. Did you train the student when you got her started? Because I'm thinking maybe she could bring in someone else and train them or something.
Or just sign up for more Prenda trainings.
Yeah, yeah,
Those are always
absolutely.
available as long as you're a part of the grant.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe have a couple of people on hand. It's pretty impressive. You have one, it sounds like you have one high school student who does most of it. That's pretty amazing. Yeah,
Small pond.
yeah, small community, limited student supply. Yeah. But so are there like retired people too? I know we always think about students, but I always wonder about retired people who could um, take the Prenda training and do this. You want to make sure they have the
I've
skill,
had that. Yeah.
right? I was talking to a library recently who has a retired person doing not doing Prenda, but doing other, and they found out that while the person had the tech skills, they did not have the youth facilitation skills. But there are retired people out there who can do it. Oh, there you go, Terry. You're retired. Go.
Me.
That's
I'm
really
that person.
funny. So maybe you know other retired people who could help you out. That would be pretty cool, I think.
It looks like she's like Richmond Library's way up in northern Utah, right on the Utah-Idaho border in a pretty rural area.
I'm gonna open a map.
Just north of Logan.
It means nothing to me. Oh, so yeah, Terry, that's the challenge, right? In rural communities, you're saying most of the retired folks already volunteer, so there's not a lot of anyone to go around. Oh, and you're going, oh, wow, congratulations going on to the um, city council. Well, that's also great though for sustainability, right? You're going to be able to talk up what you're doing even more by being on city council. That's really exciting.
Well,
Congratulations.
congratulations. That's huge.
Yeah. Oh, 100 miles north. So well, right, that's north, but it's 100 miles from Salt Lake City isn't too terribly far away from a city.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's not like they're going to have access to tech people from Salt Lake City or
yeah.
Provo.
No, but what about Idaho? What's in Idaho near you?
Mm.
Across state borders.
Looks like about as far to Idaho Falls,
Yeah,
which is a good size.
yeah, it is more rural in Idaho, probably. Yeah. So I can tell you the states in alphabetical order, but I can't like put them on a map very well. Although I do know where Idaho is because now that I'm in Seattle, I have a sense of the world right around Washington State.
You said, what's in Idaho? Laura said, potatoes.
I bet there's more than potatoes. Yeah. Yeah, it is a very rural place. Yeah, and just looking at this map, I can see how rural you are. So so are there any other, Luke, you would know this, are there any other Prenda sites around where Terry is?
Yeah, we have a bunch in Utah, and there's another one in the Grant even or two others in the Grant that are in Utah, but they're not in your part of Utah. One is in kind of Park City area.
Yeah.
Summit County Library System, Camas location, and then Wasatch County or Heber City, same thing, is also a Grant member, but I think they're in the south.
Yeah, but you have a Holiday Inn and a Comfort Inn in Richmond. I'm looking that up.
We've had North Logan has been customers in the past, and Tremonton have been customers in the past, and those are both right around you guys in Richmond City.
Yeah. And it's always, people get pulled in so many different ways. So why is it telling me that there's hotels in Richmond? Maybe I'm not in Richmond, Utah. I thought I was. Who knows? Yeah, Richmond, Utah. Must be nearby. Yeah, it seems like there were a lot of hotels and from how rural it is. So how far do you have to go to the grocery store?
I think nearest is 10 miles. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Well, pretty bad. There's one like every mile in any direction of my house, there's a grocery store. So the question about sustainability is like, what would hinder you from continuing Code Club, whether with Prenda or without Prenda? What would hinder you after the grant runs out? And from there, we can try to solve those problems. While you think about that and while you chat in your answers, Linda, you have this brilliant thing I've heard you say, and I wonder if you could flesh this out. Even if you're not running Code Club, even if Code Club has to wrap up after the grant runs out, which is understandable, there's reasons for that. There are ways to incorporate what you've learned in Code Club into other things. Linda, talk to us about that.
I think it goes into everything, Luke.
Yeah.
I feel like this was a setup. But yes, it goes into everything, because think about it. First of all, as you know, coding doesn't have to be with computers and technology all the time, right? You can do lots of different things. Actually, also just last Thursday did a webinar on computational thinking in games. And the facilitator just went through all these different games and how it brings in the ideas of coding and computational thinking. So even when you're playing Boggle or Boulder Dash, if you're doing any kind of games, board games or puzzles with kids, then that can bring in some of the ideas. Also, as we keep talking about, Luke, it's not just the coding, it's the communication skills, it's the teamwork, it's the problem solving. When I first learned to code, my favorite thing was the problem solving. I never knew I loved to do that, but I love to do that. And so all of those kinds of things, just thinking about anything you do, Storytime, there's some great resources now about Storytime and how that brings in the ideas of coding and computational thinking, pattern recognition and Simon Says and all of that kind of stuff. So Storytime, book discussion groups, all different kinds of programs and activities you do have an aspect of Code Club. And you could even then also, if you're doing a program, you can bring in some of these tools, Makey or whatever, into the activities you're doing as another part of it. So it doesn't have to be a separate club. And I'm thinking that Laura, right, your STEAM club, is it Laura? Who is the STEAM club?
Yeah, that was Laura.
Laura, I mean, that's definitely got Code Club pieces to it, even if it's not Code Club.
Yeah. Is it taking it too far to say, even as you're sitting at the front desk and people are like, hey, I can't find this thing, if you would respond to them by saying, okay, what have you tried so far? Who else
Yeah.
have you asked?
Yeah,
You lead them through
absolutely.
that problem solving and help
Yeah.
them. They maybe won't appreciate that because they didn't really sign up to be taught a lesson at the front desk. But what do you think? Is that taking it too far?
No, absolutely not. And it's like it's decomposition, which is part of computational thinking, right? Is decompose what you've done or abstract what you've done.
Mm.
So no, and I think and people at the front desk know when someone's not going to want to do that, right? But it's how are you going to answer their question if you don't know what they've done so far,
Yeah.
right? You could just be telling them the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. So Laura, the coding breakout, tell us more about that.
Laura says, we're planning on doing a coding breakout during one of our code clubs. Coding breakout.
Is that like an escape room thing you're thinking? Is that kind of breakout?
Breakout EDU.
Oh yeah, so it's the escape room stuff, which has so much computational thinking in it. Those escape rooms, I think, are amazing. And then if you have youth build breakouts, so many things are going to be learning that fit with coding and computational thinking.
That's awesome.
Yeah, really amazing. Yeah, that Laura says they love doing them. We had that out for the 6th graders. So yeah, so Laura, tell us how you're going to do the coding breakout.
While you do that, Linda had referenced that recent YALSA webinar.
Yep.
I'm going to post the link here to their webinar page. I don't know if, without being a member, if you can.
You're not supposed to, but I'm illegally right now going to put that in here. Take that out of the recording. No, it's all right.
You overestimate my editing skills.
I know. I don't overestimate them, but it's actually a drag to go and find that exact thing unless you look at the exact time right now and figure it out. Okay, so wait, I'm gonna find it. Here it is. It's related. So let me just find the URL. So he goes through all these amazing games that I've never heard of, and logic puzzles, and it fits totally with the breakout thing. Oh, that's so cool. So Laura, I didn't realize they had coding breakouts at Breakout EDU. I didn't even know that. Not that like I should have known that. That's so cool.
Viola. It's a great expression, Laura.
That's very cool. And so did you buy the kit, Laura, or did you, because this is
like it's a
really
subscription.
Yeah.
Her library subscribes to.
Yeah, this would be something interesting to look at for Prenda, like for some of those different modules. Or just let people know. So
I'm just guessing a couple of the main barriers to people, and while you guys continue this conversation, I'll bring it back to the high level.
Thank you, Luke.
Yeah. Some of the main barriers to continuing a code club after the grant runs out. Number one is funding, right? If you like the program that you have right now, you absolutely have the opportunity to continue it, but it does cost. And so if you can't find funding, that's one thing. We do have a funding guide, which I will copy and paste into the chat in a little bit. It's like 10 ideas of where to find funding, everything from grants to local tech companies, et cetera, are in that guide. So that's that helps with that, but funding's a real problem with libraries. And so let's say you can't find funding, but you still want to continue coding. What are some of the other barriers that you might run into, like a common barrier? One of them is time and energy, like time to put together lesson plans and curriculum development. So I'll just maybe address that idea right now briefly. Somebody said it already in the chat here that they may drop down to just 2 times a month, every other week, instead of doing it every week. So if time is a real barrier, modify the program to fit with what you have capacity for. There's no fast and hard rule that you have to do it every week. Now, from our experience of running code clubs all around the country, when you scale back to once a month, we don't see a lot of like buzz on that. We see a lot of those code clubs that just don't really ever make any progress, and it's too infrequent. But I have seen a lot of every other weeks succeed. The highest percentage of success does happen with every week, like weekly code clubs. It's where kids can develop a community and they can get to know each other and they can make real progress in their learning journey. But if you have to scale back to just twice a month, that's doable. So keep that in mind. And then think about all of the platforms and all of the stuff that you've been introduced to throughout your time in Prenda. Now, we link to, I don't know, probably close to a dozen different resources and platforms, et cetera, and plus have our own kind of custom content mixed in with all of it. But you now have experienced App Lab, and you've now experienced Code.org and Khan Academy. And so you have experienced some of the best platforms out there for learning how to code. And so maybe as you continue, you lean on those as a resource for you. And maybe it's as simple as writing 3 websites on the whiteboard, and kids come in, they pick which one they want to work from that day. You know, it's kind of low tech, but maybe that gets the job done. Maybe you write Scratch, Khan Academy, Code.org, and just let kids go try it out and kind of keep the same philosophy, the same ethos, the same values as Code Club, but remove the support and structure that you get from our software and try to do kind of a DIY version of it. I think that's totally reasonable. What do you think, Linda, or others?
I definitely think so. I think that you can do it, but I would also say, to go back what you asked me before, is to, and actually maybe we should do this as one of these sessions, is to bring something you already do and think about how you can integrate Code Club into it. Yeah. So even without a subscription and any other materials and resources, you can take some of these things that you've been doing and put it into something you're already doing. And I know, and you said that about funding, and I think that for me in my head, you said about tech companies, I think making connections to community people and organizations about this work and letting them know what the young people are gaining from it is the best way to get money, because otherwise they're like, oh yeah, they go to the library, they have fun. But hey, here's this girl who built a bake sale website. These are the skills she learned, right? This is what she's going to be able to do from it. I think it's really pretty powerful.
Yeah.
So keeping track of that is real. I think keeping track of that, like what you see youth learning and what they're gaining, is a really important way to get support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just posted the link there. This document's called The Ultimate Guide to Funding Code Club. It's got 10 ideas of places to look for funding.
And there's a lot.
Maybe you go to these companies and you ask for 4 times as much as what you actually need. And you buy computers and you pay somebody to do it. You know, why not?
Yeah. You know, and I wonder, I know you're all rural, but even like community colleges, they may have ways to help support the project. It might not be super close, but I bet they're doing some online learning with people in your area. So they might actually have some good ideas or connections, because it's all about the connections, right?
Yeah.
Who you know, how you make connections to them. Absolutely. So are there other barriers that Laura and Terry have thought of? And I guess my other thing that I was thinking about is how you would pitch this to someone, right? So if you were saying, Luke, you were talking about going to tech companies, but what are those things you're going to say to somebody about why you need this for the youth in your community? I've been talking a lot recently, to people in rural communities who are talking about, families are concerned that young people will leave the rural community and never come back.
Yeah.
And so what do you do about that, right? So what kinds of things can Code Club help a young person learn for jobs that don't even exist today?
Yeah.
Right? There's all these skills. We don't know what they are, but they could be the kinds of things that people in your town need and want, and then they'll be able to keep the economic vitality of the community going.
Yeah, that's a big thing if you're talking to people who care about that. Say what we're teaching kids, they don't have to go to the big city to get these jobs.
Yeah.
So they have an internet connection. They can do these from anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Have I already told you this? I'm fascinated with real estate drone pilots, because real estate agencies have drone pilots, right?
Yeah, I've seen more and more of those
Yeah.
drone shots on the listings.
Exactly. So not that that's a job you would have in your community, but those kinds of things that didn't exist when I was a kid. And since I'm like the people who are getting close to retirement age, or I'm not retired yet, but closer to retirement age, those things didn't exist. Didn't have a chance. You had to leave if you were in a small town a lot of the time.
Yeah. So Linda asked, like, what does that conversation look like with those tech companies? Or they don't have to be tech companies either. If they're just companies that care about kids, or it's a local business and the guy's got kids or the woman's got kids, they're going to care. So one of the resources we have is a email template, and I'll paste that in here, but it's just like you can modify it obviously, but you can take this as kind of a starting cold email to reach out to these people and begin the conversation of asking them for donation. I think all of those talking points are what we need to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Think about it from their perspective. What do they care about? How does Code Club tie into that?
Yeah. And even as you were just saying that, and not always necessarily starting with the money, right? Come and help us, facilitate this, or find young people to participate. And then when they get to learn about it, they'll be like, hey, I want to give you money.
Yeah.
Take my money, not my Porsche. Take my money.
Not my time.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's interesting because I think you get this, I see it happen all the time. Libraries start all these great things, and then when the project is over, it's like, okay, we're going to go on to something else, which sort of is not a good thing.
So Terry's got a problem that she chatted in a couple chats above. Our biggest problem is finding people excited to help kids and adults learn coding. I'm told about every other day by citizens how glad they are that I'm skilled, that Terry is skilled in coding and willing to share, teach, and facilitate. Yeah, so how do you convince somebody who isn't a coder that they can run a code club, especially on the Prenda model?
Yeah.
I need to know how to code. How can you convince people that that's possible? It's a hard sell. Mostly we have library staff members that are running code clubs. So it's not just your generic citizen who does it. And in that case, it's kind of an easier sell. You just say, look, you don't have to worry. You're going to get trained. You're going to have all the support. It's going to be super easy. You just have to go do it. You have to block out an hour of your time every week and go do it. And if you're in a leadership position, then you actually have the authority to say that, and that's helpful.
I wonder, Terry, too, if because with Code Club, you don't have to know coding to get started. I wonder if there's other things you could say to them, like, do you like helping young people do this? Or do you get excited by seeing this? I don't know what those things are, obviously, but like not even focusing as much on the coding as on the just helping young people gain skills. And it's through coding, but Brenda gives you everything you need, sort of, to do
Thanks,
that.
Linda.
You're welcome. Well, I mean, that's why, look at, they want to keep it going. And then Terry says that local manufacturers are excited to have a code club. That's great. So they're thinking that's because that will help the youth who are in the community work in those places. That's awesome, Terry.
Manufacturing companies are a great fit for this stuff.
Yeah.
More and more of that stuff is all automated. It's all tech-based, coding-based. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
I love that. Did you have connection, Terry? I'm curious. Did you have connections to those manufacturing companies before this? Because that's really cool.
Yeah, looks like they're more generic city connections.
Yeah.
Library connections.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably in a small town, you're bound to have connections if there's a big employer.
Right. You at least know someone who knows someone, or you went to school with someone, or whatever. Yeah. Oh, right. I forgot you were on the city. You're doing your city council thing. That's perfect. Yeah,
Plus, I'm friends
that's
with the owners.
perfect. Yeah, I love that. That's really great.
So Laura talked about how in Tennessee there's a big STEM learning push
Yeah.
right now, and that's happening a lot of places. That's
Yeah.
happening in Alabama. The governor of Alabama has an initiative. It's happening in Phoenix, Arizona. The city council supporting stuff like that. And oftentimes, if a politician is going to back something like that, it oftentimes means there's actually governmental funding somewhere. You just have
Right.
to go out and get
Right.
it. If they're going to, say there's initiative, that means there's money in an initiative,
Yeah.
and hopefully you can make a good case for why you deserve that. If it's not super specific, like going to K-12 schools or something like that, hopefully you can get some of that money and use it for your tech efforts, because the library is just as valid of an educational opportunity, if not more so, to the unreached and underprivileged people in your communities, that than a school is. So yeah, if you're in a community like that, and maybe you don't know if you are or not, just Google around and do things like coding plus your governor's name or something like
Right.
that, and see
Right.
if you can find something that they've said, some initiative that they've kicked off. No matter how small, that's a good sign. And then from there, maybe you can even make your case to like your state library and say,
Yeah.
look, Governor so-and-so has this initiative. Here's the press release about it. Don't you want to be in line with the governor's initiative? Here's, help me run a code club and you can get all the press you want out of it, that kind of thing.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, it's really big across the country, like you're saying. And New York City, they said, what's his name? De Blasio said that in 10 years, all curriculum was going to include coding. 10 years is a really long time in my mind for that to be happening. But so there's definitely things. Oh, Terry, so you mean because they tell us why initiatives are often a 4-letter word? Because it's taking away from the local autonomy?
Yeah, I'm not following that
Yeah.
thought, but
Oh, yeah. They're underfunded and take control from local folks. Yeah. There's a great book about education in rural communities. Let me see if I can find it. That talks about that kind of thing, and how there's an opportunity gap, though, in rural communities, which I think is part of what Luke is talking about.
I know where I've had all the success, like in Tennessee and Alabama, where there are governor initiatives or state government initiatives around coding and technology. It's in partnership with the state library then.
Right.
And the state library
Right.
understands the plight of the rural library, the small rural library. And so a lot of our success in those states affects and benefits the small and rural libraries. So I wouldn't maybe go directly to the funding source, but try to work with their peer on the funding scale, which might be your state library.
Yeah, it's tough. But I think there's a lot of myths about rural America that people who aren't there don't really understand. And so talking about this kind of stuff and getting funding and who you talk to and knowing, like Terry, knowing that is really important about the 4-letter word. Yeah. Yeah, Utah State Library is great. So this is that book, No Longer Forgotten About Rural Education in America, which is really pretty amazing. Yeah. So can I change the subject for a minute? Because I have an idea for the next Zoom next month.
Yep.
So I was thinking that we could have an end of the year celebration where everybody could come with one of their favorite things from the past year, no matter when you started in 2019, and everybody could talk about what one of their favorite things was that they did in 2019. What do you think?
Yeah, storytelling.
Yep.
if there's a coding project that's a part of that story, then we could do a little show and tell.
Yeah, we should do our own show and tells.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
can make people say fill out a form if they want to share during that. But yeah, I think that's great.
What do you think, Terry and Laura? You can say you think it sucks. Sorry. You think it's a bad idea. That's okay. Just because Luke and I are like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, but we're not where you are. We're not there doing the work. Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be major. Just show something that you really liked, or talk about something you really liked.
Say, oh, this girl is coming and she made a website. It was awesome.
Yeah, and you could even show us her website.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything major. Great. Thanks, Terry. I just thought it would be a good way to end 2019.
Yeah, and we can make an effort for that, that if you're sharing, you can dial in, even if your computer doesn't have microphones, so we can get audio for all of those things.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. Definitely. Oh, good. All right. I'll bring something too.
Nice.
From 2019. It might not be Co-Club, but I'll bring something I think was really fun or whatever from 2019. That means you have to too, Luke.
Does it mean that?
Terry, you don't have to buy a mic. Just use your cell phone.
Yeah, Zoom has a dial-in number as well, so you can just use your phone like this and still look.
Right. Right.
And it patches them together. It patches your screen and your audio together.
The only thing you'll have to do is tell us which phone number is yours, so we can
change if you put in your participant ID, it actually.
Oh, right. I forgot you do that. That's right. Oh.
Okay.
Spotty cell service. All right. That's good. That's a good idea. That's a good idea, Laura, to just borrow something. Oh yeah, and maybe you could borrow something, Terry, so you don't have to buy something.
Good idea.
Yeah. It's always good to borrow. So are there other questions or things you wanted to mention that you've been working on?
Yeah, last couple minutes, anything's fair game. We've been known to talk about what we're watching on Netflix.
Yes. Because Luke, I was on a plane last week and I watched all 4 episodes of Queer Eye in Japan and cried at everyone. It was so embarrassing.
So you're on the plane crying.
I was sobbing on the plane. And I did just change. Oh, the Finch. Are you still working on Finch robots?
It is still on my list.
Yeah.
Yes. I haven't actively started working on it yet because we are prioritizing updating all of the current curriculum. So if you've interacted with any of the HTML or CSS, that's all been updated. And as of last week, JavaScript 1 through 7 have all been updated.
Wow.
And I think JS Web is either partially or close to being done, being updated. So that's the top priority right now. And then Finch is next on the curriculum list.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Laura, Terry, that sounds amazing. Tell us more about that app. And then maybe that would be interesting to talk about with the youth too, is like how you did that, why you did that, all of that. But tell us.
Well, while she's typing that in, I was on an airplane last week. I went to the school library conference.
Oh, yeah.
And
Louisville, right? Louisville? Yeah.
They say it.
Louisville. You're right. Louisville. Go ahead.
I watched my 2 favorite movies on either end of the trip. Number 1, Hot Rod.
Oh my gosh.
On the way out. And number 2, on the way back, Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh yeah, I do. I've never seen Hot Rod, but I do really like Scott Pilgrim versus the World. That's a great movie.
One of my favorites. Louisville. Yep.
Louisville.
No I, Linda. Louisville.
And no, it's like Louisville is what I say, but it's Louisville.
Yep, that's it. That's closer.
It's all one. Louisville. I can't do it. Louisville. Yeah.
Louisville.
I'm not good at that thing. Terry says someone else started the app several years ago, then it stopped. Oh, looking to increase attendance at political process in the process in local politics is the biggest. That's awesome. That's a great civic engagement activity that even for young people thinking about. I sometimes do an activity to talk about coding and computational thinking and app building, about what's a problem in your community you want to solve and how could an app help you to do that. So that seems like what you're doing, Terry. That's really cool. Great idea. Hi, Lori.
Fayetteville.
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 Fayetteville. Oh my gosh.
That's Tennessee, though. I would expect that
Yeah.
kind of thing in Tennessee.
Yeah. Lori, we're unfortunately almost over. Hello. Yeah, it is weird from New York, the differences. Yeah. It's crazy.
You're good, Lori. We recorded it, and I'll send it out afterwards.
Good. Talking some about sustainability. So, Lori, what are you thinking about keeping Code Club going after? When are you done? When's Lori done? Do you know? March. She's March. So you started thinking, it's a little early, about how you're going to keep things going afterwards and what your challenges might be? Absolutely thinking. That's good.
Absolutely thinking.
It's a good first step. Absolutely. Oh, that's fantastic. I had a parent who said if I need funding to let him know. So is that someone who's been participating? Their child has been participating? That's awesome. Child has autism and he loves it. That's great. Congratulations. Community connections. So it's all about in rural America. Yeah, not a lot for those kids to do.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we should think about learning disabilities as a future webinar topic.
Yeah.
I've heard, just when we started our Code Club, we had an autistic kid who was a member, and it was amazing. It was such a cool environment. He wore over-ear headphones and would sit in the corner, but he got to do it, and he got to be a part of the room, and he got to be there and engage at whatever level he wanted. Yeah. And I think it was really positive for him. And I've heard similar reports, from around the country. But yeah, I think that's an important segment that we can serve and provide an amazing experience for.
Yeah, and I have a librarian friend who does this she has a son who's on the spectrum, and he's in his 30s now, but she does this great presentation on serving youth on the spectrum, and we could probably ask her to do something.
It would be amazing to get some expertise on that, because I feel totally out of my depth.
I learned
all I know to do is to love and to support and to care, but I don't have any actual hard skills.
All right. I will talk to her about that. And Lori says, kids who come, this is their place. This kid has really blossomed. That's really great.
Yeah.
A great story to tell about the way libraries change lives.
All right. Well, it's time. So I just want to respect everybody else's time. Thanks for hanging out with us today. This is recorded, and I'll upload it and email it out hopefully later today. But you guys are amazing. You're doing great work. You're changing kids' lives. You're opening up job opportunities and life skills and all that stuff. And we just sincerely are impressed and want to thank you for that kind of work that you're doing. Okay?
Great. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Adios.